Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic host of Bachelor Nation News. And we've got our fourth video of the day. If that's not reason to hit the like button, I don't know what is. Chris Harrison says Bachelor should want him back. Let's jump right into it. Here's what he had to say.
Because they're having dismal Bachelor ratings.
Well, look, here's the story as well. By the way, the real story that broke was internal conversations are being had by ABC executives about bringing me back.
Now, what he's probably not going to say, because I haven't listened to this yet, is that ABC and The Bachelor immediately said that's not true.
Do I think these conversations have happened? Probably. And here's why. I think it would almost be crazy not to. If you're running a business, any business at all, and that business, sales are down 50 to 60% and falling, and everybody can see the numbers. We know what's happening. And you think there's something that could change that and fix that. Of course, you're going to have that conversation. You would be crazy not to have that conversation. And with the advent of this podcast, the most dramatic podcast ever, they've seen the numbers. They've seen the response in my social media.
And to be honest, his numbers are pretty good. If you look at Chartable, he is ranked top 200 global reach of all podcasts. Now, new podcasts get favored heavily from this. He has 3,000 ratings, which to be honest isn't that high. My podcast has 500. I'm not a big time person, so he's got 6 times as many ratings as I do. Chatty Broads, the former podcast, now Your Mom and Dad pod, they've got 25,000. Caitlin Bristow has 25,000. So 3,000 ratings isn't that much. That's just like an indicator because we can't see the actual numbers. But I do understand Chris's point. It's when you're defending yourself, it always comes off wrong. His point being they probably had conversations. I'm sure they have conversations about a lot of things, Chris, but are they going to take action? They're
not deaf to all of that. They've seen what's happening. So am I shocked that these conversations are happening? No, it's not. It would not be a surprise. In fact, I would be shocked if they weren't happening.
Right. And when they say internal conversations, is that the version of like a source says for like a celebrity?
Right. Well, they said a source within ABC said these conversations are taking place.
And then ABC said, no, they're not. So is there really a source here? I'm not really sure.
That was the actual story. And then from there, it spread to, is Chris Harrison coming back? And actually, Chris Harrison is coming back. And they're talking to...
No, that was never a story.
...to him. And so it obviously how it goes from there, clickbait.
Right.
But the 2 original stories had the source inside the network saying these conversations were happening.
I've always enjoyed Chris Harrison from the aspect of, he's kind of like just a very stoic host. He doesn't give you too much. Pragmatic, maybe. I don't know how you would describe him. But I tell you what, I don't personally think it's a good idea. I mean, I get his rationale here, but I just don't think it makes him look good. I think it makes him look kind of like, the guy with all of his high school trophies in his bedroom still. You know what I mean?
Well, I wondered, do you believe that ABC could have leaked this story? I mean, I keep going like, who put the story out there to get legs? I mean,
anybody who's running any program will leak one of these types of stories because it's been a slow news month.
We know it's not Jesse Palmer, so
yeah, right.
Fact.
I don't know. You would have to ask them. But would it be the craziest thing?
Okay, Chris Harrison, hang on.
You calling ABC?
Yeah, I have a direct number in.
Do you go straight to the top? Do you go to Mickey Mouse? Who do you go to?
Well,
so he's talking to Tori Spelling here, in case anyone's wondering.
Years. I mean, my dad had all of his shows there, and it used to be called, off the record, Aaron Broadcast Company. Wow. So I'm pretty high up there.
I bet you do.
But sorry, what were you saying?
No, I just, would it be crazy to send out that test balloon and
to see how people respond?
To test the waters, of course. Yeah. So it's not the most outlandish, crazy story, although it did make...
Okay, so Chris thinks that the story could have been leaked because it was ABC sending out a test balloon. Hopefully the ABC didn't shoot the balloon down, but I don't know. It's a stretch. I'm feeling very stretched right now.
Waves, and it got a lot. And again, whether that was the intention of all this, who knows, but that it definitely made the press.
Well, I mean, that's not the real question. The real question is, would you consider going back?
Whoa.
That's the multi-million-dollar question on the table.
The multi-gazillion-dollar question.
Look, here's the thing. And I'm not being dodgy when I talk about this, because I've talked about it previously as well. It's complicated. First of all, I live by the axiom, never say never, because I just think in life and in business, that comes back to bite you in the butt. Yeah. So I'll never say never. But with that said, it is complicated.
Dead air.
Would I have that conversation? Yes. I also believe in relationships and in business. Take the phone call and you listen and you have that conversation, whether it's uncomfortable or not.
So he says in the hypothetical, he would take the phone call. Now, as far as ratings being down 60%, I don't know about that. We've all agreed that Nielsen rating system is hogwash. People watch the next day and all these different things. Are ratings that bad? Here's what Bachelor Data had to say.
The Bachelor, so we're getting all the media headlines about how ratings are the worst they've ever been. Let's discuss the reality of what's really going on. First off, these headlines are not new. Here's one from 2019, 2017, and even one from 2012, over 10 years ago. And let's be real, here's one from left and right-leaning media. A prime mistake that these articles make is that they look at one piece of data and make an assumption for their content. They look at the ratings and how they've been declining year after year, and then they make the bold assumption that the show is going to end. But here's the reality. Ratings are down across the board. Here's The Voice, here's Survivor, and it's not just reality TV, it's cable in general. Are there exceptions to this? Yes, there are outliers in any piece of data. But generally, cable is seeing a big drop in viewership. Why is that happening? Well, if we look back at the early 2000s, so 2002, there were very few options on TV at the time, especially when it comes to reality TV. As each year passes, more and more TV shows are introduced. In 2016 alone, there were 750 reality TV shows that aired on cable. 350 of them were brand new. Then there was the rise in streaming, and after a while, streaming networks actually started creating their own TV shows because they were so profitable. Then the pandemic hit. Everyone was stuck at home watching tons of new TV shows, and the true competitor to television was introduced: TikTok. I made a whole video about this linked in my profile and it's pinned to the top of my feed, but by the end of 2021, TikTok became the most visited website in the world, passing YouTube and even Netflix. Now here's the current reality. Netflix and streaming services are no longer competing with cable TV. They're competing with TikTok, which sounds wild if you don't use the app, but stay with me. The earliest article I was able to find on this was 2020. Long-form video like YouTube and Netflix is now competing against short-form media like TikTok.
I don't disagree with Susanna at all. Maybe I'm an old school person, but they're different things. Yellowstone's got 10 hours of content every season, right? TikTok has 10-second videos. Now, sure, TikTok has longer videos and all that, but it gives you this like sugar high. And people that want to watch scripted TV or long form stuff or Survivor, I don't know if it's sure they're competing against time. Time's an infinite thing. A finite thing. There's only so much of it. So yes, they're competing against each other for time, but it's like they're just different beasts. So I think what we've learned though is that as long as networks like ABC exist, there's going to be time slots they need filled, and some shows like the Super Bowl cost hundreds of millions of dollars to produce, and some shows like Bachelor, they have contestants that work for free. So I don't see that being an indicator to needing Chris back. But what Chris doesn't realize is, I don't know if the genie can go back in the bottle here. If Chris goes back onto the show as the host, you've got to have all the people that wanted him fired in the first place pushing back. The people that left the show, it doesn't guarantee they're going to come back. It's a culture war. It's fascinating. And it's also just very funny that Chris thinks that all these conversations behind the scenes are happening about him. I don't think there are any plans to bring Chris back. Now, if Jesse Palmer quits and the position reopens, possibly. But I don't see Jesse Palmer quitting. It's a lucrative and easy show to host, as he's proved. I think he's doing a relatively good job. I'd love to know what you guys think. That's going to be it from me. I've got more content, though, on the podcast, Bachelor Rush Hour, if you want to check that out. Every afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour, the daily podcast. I put all these stories together in bite-sized content. So if you missed some of my other stories today, two of which involved Greer and Zach Shellcross, one of which involved Caroline Lunny, you might have missed that one. That one's already out. She posted some, I guess you would say, not entirely informed opinions about the war in Ukraine and also what's going on in Ohio. And we discussed that because that's what we do. No judgment, just here to talk. Let me know what you guys think. We'll be back right after this.